Hi, this is Shauna from the Foil Fox. Thank you for being here today. I am sharing another bird and berries. You know, those are some of my most favorite combinations. And this is a wonderful penny black stamp. It's called Settled. And it has this sweet bird on these branches of berries. And then I'm going to also be using the Delicate Pines. This I think came out last year, so did Settled, but they are timeless. And then a new sentiment set called Warmest Thoughts, and it has so many nice sentiments. I'm going to start with a piece of hot pressed watercolor paper and a myriad of distress inks, because that's what I'll be coloring with, and then VersaFine black ink. So we're going to mount this in my stamp positioner, the stamp, the bird that's settled, the bird and the berries. And I have my watercolor paper in there. Using VersaFine black ink, I'm going to just ink this up. This is a waterproof ink, and it is very crisp and it is very detailed, so I love using it. You don't get blurred lines, you get very, very crisp ones. So I'm not going to push really hard, because the one thing is you can always go back over it, but you can't take it off. Now I've taken it out and I have let it dry. I'm using a tissue just to make sure it's really dry. I have in my little dampen dish, I have some soft soap and my um, less expensive brush, we'll say, but still able to get the ink in the right place. But I just really massage in that soap so that the masking fluid doesn't stick to it. So I'm just adding a little bit of masking fluid on each of these berries, because we want these berries to show up. No matter what kind of ink that we apply over it, if it has the masking fluid, it'll be protected, and then we can take it off and then paint our little berries. So I'm just going to put uh, masking fluid over each of these berries, and I'm going to put it on the belly of my bird, because I don't know, I might have a little bit of blue coming in there for the snowbanks, and I didn't want to have it mess up that wonderful breast of the berries. Oh, sorry, breast of the bird. And now I'm just finishing up the berries. Now I'm let that dry, and you want to get it really, really dry. Now fortunately it doesn't take very long, but I want to get it very, very dry before I start this. Now I have a piece of copy paper that I have just torn, as you saw, and I've just torn a snowbank. I have a blending brush, and I have Blueprint Sketch and Chip Sapphire. Now, these are all listed in the supply list. Everything I used is listed in the supply list. Don't be afraid of the supply list being so long. It's just that I doubled up on the inks. When I had small mini ones, I listed them along with the full size. So you can, if you needed any, you can choose which one works best for you. I like to use, especially for demonstration, the small ones, but they're also just really easy to have lots of inks out there, and it doesn't get too confusing when you just have these little squares. So I'm just moving this around now. I'm going very light at first, because again, you can always add, but you can't take it off as easily. So I go very, very slowly, and then I'll start to add more shading. I use that Chip Sapphire more for the shading, and the Blueprints sketch as it kind of fades away and wanting a little bit lighter snowbank. So you can see it's really simple to do it this way. You don't have to uh, paint these in to get some really nice looking. You can just blend them in, and you just have so much more control. See, I was moving around. Where do I put this? I'm going to just put it right behind the bird here. And I'm going to just add some going up a little bit higher. And I'm just going to continue like this, just gradually adding more ink. You can see I'm using the Chip Sapphire there as I get a little bit darker, and you see it's starting to deepen in some areas. And then I'm going to extend it out a little bit. I know the sentiment is going to be there, but if it's really light, it's going to work out just fine. And I wanted to extend out the design just a little bit. I'm going to just add more in the upper portions of it. And now I'll just add a little bit more deeper color in there. Now I've decided that I wanted to brighten it up a bit, so I'm using some Salty Ocean. That brighter, lighter color of blue really does, just little touches really kind of just give it a spark of brightness, which is what I was looking for. And I just, as always, I do this a little at a time so that I don't mess it up, and just look at it as I go along and make some judgments. I'm going to put some down at the very bottom. I put some at the top there. This is going to be just a really subtle kind of design. Now I've putting it back in my stamp positioner. This is the Delicate Pines. There's 3 of these stamps, and I'm going to use this larger one. I was deciding whether to use the large one or not, but I think I'm going to use the large one, but I'm not going to use the the branch that sticks up towards the bird. I'm just going to stamp that long branch, and I'm going to use peeled paint, chipped sapphire, and maybe a little bit of forest moss if I want it a little bit darker. Again, remember, these are all on the supply list, but you'll see double on a lot of them, just so you can, if you need any, you can decide if you want the small or the large pads. And so I do this, I start out fairly light because again, I can always add, and I am going to continue to add. I do like how the chip sapphire makes it a little bit darker. Now you see I picked up my sprayer there. I am missing this, but I'm missing it like really far away. Just like an arm's length away, because I want just a smattering of moisture on it. If I drowned it with too much water, it's going to blur the pine needles. I don't want that to happen, but I do want just enough moisture where it blends these colors of inks together. Now I'm liking this color. It's working out very nicely. I think that's about as dark as I want to go. Now we'll take another one of these branches and put it right there, and then we'll use the same inks and the same procedure. I will mist it again, but kind of at arm's length, and you almost don't know if you got any moisture on there, but that's the kind you want, where you're just like, did I get any there? I think so. That's how far away you want to be if you want your needles, your pine needles, to be very, very distinct, which is what I was looking for. I could have made them more moist, and they would have blended more together, but I was looking for a more distinct look. This one I wanted a really clean kind of feeling, and simple too, and serene kind of look I was looking for here. And so we've finished that. Now I'm going to add another branch just up higher, and just going to see, I lightly stamp that because there's still ink on there. I will ink it up again, and not add too much because I like keeping it kind of light. And so I'm not going to get real dark at the top. So with that done and dry, now you didn't see the drying time because that would be boring, but I let it dry, and now I'm using a rubber eraser because it takes off this masking fluid really cleanly. As you can see, it does that very nicely. And now I'm going to put pumice stone and some of that blueprint sketch and chip sapphire. This is on my acrylic block, so I'm using it as a palette. Some black soot, some wild honey, and some crackling campfire. And I'm going to color the bird now, and I'm bringing in a little bit of water and a small brush, and I'm just going to moisten his back and his head. And I'm going to start with pumice stone. And again, my philosophy is to start light and then go continue to add layers and go dark. That way, I don't go too heavy at one time. And this pumice stone gives me a really nice gray. I'm going to mix it in with a little bit of the blues on his wing. And I am going to add a little bit of the black soot to the very back of the bird as well. I'm just adding some more water around there, and I'm going to add a little bit of blue and then go on to the breast here with some wild honey and crackling campfire. Especially going to add more color right there, a little deeper colors for the shading. And I like leaving his breast kind of mottled because that's kind of the way birds are, aren't they? And I'm going to add more of the blue in here and some black and a little bit of the pumice stone, and then take some dampen my brush and smooth it out a little bit. So here we're going to deepen this color a little bit, add little dots, add some character to our little fella there. And I'm going to use, for his feet, I'll probably use a Tombow brush pen because they have a bullet tip to them besides the brush, and I can get into small spaces. Same thing for his beak. Now I'm adding lumberjack, aged mahogany, and worn lipstick, and I'm going to paint these berries. I might even add a little bit of that wild honey. I do like to have a variety of colors when I do berries so that they're just not all the same. And that those little berries that we put right there, that we put some masking fluid over, now they're going to show up in this greenery, which I really, really like. So I'm just going to go and paint these. These don't require a lot of shading because they're too darn small. So there's not a lot of that you have to do. And I'm just going to continue on painting away each of these berries. There's a bunch of them, varying the color of them. In some cases, adding a touch of aged mahogany for a little bit of shading where there's room. And I'll use aged mahogany for some of the darker berries along with the lumberjack plaid. But I really like how these little berries peek out from the pine needles there. And that's because we did add the masking fluid over them. Otherwise, we wouldn't see them at all. These just take a little bit of time, but they're so little, they actually go faster. You're seeing this really in real time. So you can see you don't spend a ton of time with them. Now I'm going to take that pumice stone with these branches, and I'm just going to very lightly color them in. I don't want them to be real pronounced. I just want them to just be lightly colored in, just so they weren't ignored. And I'm just using the pumice stone so that they're just really, really, really light. They're very skinny branches, so we want to make sure that we don't go too heavy with them or you get it all over, paint everywhere. Now I've taken it out of the stamp positioner. I'm painting it, have finished my painting, and now I've got this sentiment. I'm kind of moving this around, deciding which one I want to use. Now this is one that I did before where I added the bleed proof white, so it looks a little bit different, And I just wanted to show you that real quick. We're going to go back and visit that in just a minute. And now I'm using Faded Jeans for the sentiment. I mounted it in my stamp positioner, and now I'm going to stamp it. Now, I don't often like to use distress inks for sentiments because it isn't, I don't always get a real crisp impression, but I like the color of this, and I didn't have it in an archival. So I stamped that, let it dry. Now we're moving on. This, I've used some cream cardstock. I really like this color. It's very, very light. It's from Spellbinders. It's in the supply list. I've put some double stick tape on the back of my panel. And I'm just peeling off the release tape, and I'm just going to mount it right on top. And it's going to cover the whole top because my card base is 5x7 when folded, and so is the top. Now, I told you I would show you the one that I did earlier that has some Dr. P.H. Martin bleed proof white. I just splattered it and painted on a little bit onto the pine needles. You can decide which one you like. I didn't put the sentiment on this one yet, but I decided that I liked the cleanness of this one here without the snow, but I think the snow could really add to it too. Either way, it's really hard to decide, but I think this is just such a sweet bird and a little winter, serene, tranquil kind of feel to it, which I love, especially at holiday time. So that completes our card, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, would be over the moon if you subscribed. And I'm just going to review really quick with the things that we used. We used the Penny Black Settled, Penny Black Delicate Pines, Penny Black Warmest Thoughts, and some assorted distress inks that are all listed in our supply list. There's a link down below. You can go and check that out. You can also check out the link for our blog where there's more close-ups and there's oodles more inspiration. I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.